Earlier on in the course, in one of the practical exercises, I asked you to create a 3-slide presentation to present some information about exercise requirements and dog food requirements for your pets. And this is the one that I came up with, which you'll remember. Now, in this practical exercise, what I've said is try to implement the good design techniques that we've looked at in this section of the course. So take what we've done here and implement a good design version of this slide presentation. If we go back to the very first slide, the first thing that I would do is I would remove this border and background around the back here. One way we can do that is on the design tab and just choose a different theme. Now this may well change the fonts because it will inherit the fonts from the new design, but that's fine, I could go in and change those. The other thing that I would remove is this, the name and the date. It's not essential. However, if you can break the design rules on any slide, I would say it's the cover slide. So if you want to have your name on the cover slide and you want the date, or you want some logo or company mention for whoever you're presenting for, then you can do that, but only put it on the cover slide. Don't put it throughout the rest of the presentation. If we move over to the first slide and the second slide, they're very, very text heavy, including lots of bullet points on that slide. Now they were done fairly tastefully. They were done with the reveal technique, and if we just go and rerun it so I can remind you, we have the title loading when the slide loads, and then we get these points coming in with each trigger so you can keep the audience focused on you. So that is good design, but the amount of text isn't. And then with the dog food we had the same thing, but with the bullet points. Okay, so when I was thinking about how I could redo this slide presentation without all the text, I decided I was going to put in almost no text at all, and let me show you what I came up with. Now, I'm not going to go through how I created these slides. You can download this as a resource for this lecture if you want to have a look, but one thing I will say is that for all the slides I created, I added notes at the bottom which were essentially the notes that I gave you. So I've got all of the details there. If I go onto this one, I've got those details there as well. Let's have a look at the slideshow. I'm going to run it and we'll see what happens. Okay, I've got rid of the distracting background. I've left some text here, so a title and a subtitle. I've got rid of the name and the date and things down at the bottom. I've left the image of the dog because there's nothing wrong with that. If this presentation is about looking after dogs, then the people who are watching it are dog owners. They like, just like everybody else I guess, a nice picture of a dog, so we've included one there. So there's the cover slide. You can introduce your talk and then trigger the next slide. The next slide starts with the title, exercise requirements. That tells your audience what you're going to be dealing with, and the very first thing is we draw a grid across the bottom going from 0 to 120. That's 0 to 2 hours. Click again, we have a picture of a Lhasa Apso. We can say that the Lhasa Apso requires 30 to 60 minutes exercise per day. If we click again, we get a Beagle and a Terrier, and click again, we can say that that requires 60 to 90 minutes a day. And then we have a Cocker Spaniel and a Border Collie, and those require 90 to 120 minutes, so an hour and a half to 2 hours exercise a day. If I click the mouse again, we finish this section. We have a little animation of a dog running across having his exercise, and then we move into the next slide, which is the dog food requirements. If we move to the first slide, then I've shown a picture of a food bag for dog food. Remember that the meat should be in the top 1 or 2 ingredients in the list, and you can see up there that turkey is. So this is a good example of good dog food. If we press the next button, we can say that if you need advice with your dog food, then you can consult your vet. They can give you the information on that and maybe recommend a food for your particular dog. The next trigger shows these two, reminding you that feeding your dog should be on a schedule, preferably a couple of times a day, and then to remember that after 30 minutes after they've eaten, they probably are going to want to go to the toilet, so make sure you take them for a walk, and don't forget that dogs need lots and lots of fresh water. And so that's my completed presentation without the use of very much text. I hope you managed to create something that was a lot better than the text-based version. I know that I could do a lot more work on this and make it look a lot more professional and add in a few extra creative ideas, but you get the point. If we are trying to implement good design, there's certain things that we need to do. We need to declutter. We need to try and get rid of text. We need to have some sort of common fonts and colours, and we need to use animations and transitions strategically. And we need to reveal information on the slide so that there's not too much going on at any one time. I think this presentation achieved that. I hope yours did too.